I can't imagine you ever saying, bring me some of the boxes that we brought back from the White House. I'd like to look at them. Did you ever do that?
I would have the right to do that. There's nothing wrong with it.
But I know you. I don't think you would do it.
Well, I don't have a lot of time, but I would have the right to do that. Right. I would do that. There'd be nothing
let me move on.
Remember this.
Yeah.
This is the Presidential Records Act. I have the right to take stuff. Do you know that they ended up paying Richard Nixon, I think, $18 million for what he had? They did the Presidential Records Act. I have the right to take stuff. I have the right to look at stuff. But they have the right to talk, and we have the right to talk. This would have all been worked out. All of a sudden, they raided Mar-a-Lago, viciously raided Mar-a-Lago. I have tape, and I gave them tapes. You know, I gave them tapes of storage areas. I gave it to them. I could have held that back. I wasn't holding anything back that I cared about. I gave them tape. But you know the tape they don't want me to reveal? If possible. They've asked me, and I've so far adhered to it. The raid itself.
Wait a minute. I'll take that tape, and I'll air that tape.
Everybody would take that tape.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter. This is The Rundown. At this point, Donald Trump has been arrested. He is under arrest. He is in police custody. He is being fingerprinted. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to talk about a few other things because it's an interesting day. As we were expecting, Finland has now become a member of NATO. They will be, if they have not yet already, raising the flag at NATO headquarters, and it is a dramatic setback for Russia, and if Sweden joins, it will be even more so. But having said that, as of this moment, Donald Trump has been arrested by the New York police. He is expected to be arraigned in roughly 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to discuss some elements of that. Our position on that has changed, and I'd like to inform our viewers as to, at this point, what we believe is going to happen. I think it's different than we've been predicting. We've been talking about this. I have repeatedly suggested I don't think he's probably going to be successfully. The indictment was always likely, but I didn't think a conviction was possible based on certain assumptions of what the charges were going to be. At this point, I believe the charges are going to be somewhat different, and we've modified our view. Now, we played earlier the tape of him with Hannity, which was a catastrophe of an interview. My favorite part is Hannity trying to help Trump by saying, okay, we're going to move on, as Trump is just digging a hole and throwing himself in it. And then Trump saying, well, Nixon got $18 million for his tapes. And it's like, yeah, that's why they created the Presidential Records Act in the first place. And that just handed any prosecutor one hell of a motive as to why he kept those records. He also was certainly not entitled to those records. That's not what the Presidential Act says. And once he was no longer in the executive, he absolutely could not have those records. So it's complicated. We've discussed it before. I know he's said Obama. Obama didn't have the records. In fact, he's the only recent person from the executive branch who seems to not have had any records. There were records that he wanted. They transferred those records to the National Archives in Chicago. They were still in the custody of the National Archives. They were simply moved to Chicago so that he could go look at them at his leisure whenever he wanted. They were not in his home. They never left the custody of the National Archives. So all of this is, just it's misdirection. Yes, records were moved for Obama. They were always kept in the custody of the National Archives. It's them leaving that custody that's the issue. Now, what are we looking at? So, and some people pointing out, okay, the mug shots. There's a possibility he will not even get mug shot today. What we're understanding is, for some reason, the process of getting him a mug shot has been delayed. There may be a legit reason for this. The only reason I can think of is because they simply want to wait until everybody calms down a bit. There may be other legit reasons. The camera machine may be busted. I don't know. That suggests that they would then have to bring him back for the mugshot, so I don't think they'd rather do that. I am not a fan of mugshots and releasing them publicly. We will do so since they're going to be public anyway. And you're going to be able to find them anywhere else. We might as well, since our audience is going to want to see them, since they're going to be available, we will certainly show them. I will resist the urge to mock them, although I may fail on that. I am against the releasing of mugshots because you are innocent until proven guilty, and the problem is they are inflammatory. They're extraordinarily inflammatory. We have seen people who have been exonerated, not just found not guilty, but actually exonerated, and their mugshots are still floating around. The mugshots of the Duke college students is still around, and we'll be following them for the rest of their lives, and they were framed by the district attorney for some extraordinarily serious crimes. Those boys' lives is already bad enough and will never be completely repaired. Do we need to have their mugshots floating around as well? If you're truly innocent until proven guilty, I understand why trials are held publicly. I have some complaints about that, but I don't think they're fixable. I think trials have to be public. I understand why all of this information is public record, but the mugshots, fingerprints aren't the mugshots. I don't think should be either. So at any rate, I am looking at what appears to be a large crowd gathering in New York. We are expecting his arraignment. So what's going on? At this point, thank you, Titan, for doing that. At this point, he has been arrested. He is in police custody. He will be escorted, we believe, without handcuffs to the... I can actually maybe get that in. No, I'm not going to do that. We believe he's going to be escorted without handcuffs to a judge who is there just waiting. This is actually reasonably common anyway. When they indict people, they usually just try to get them in and out pretty quickly. The judge is basically just there to set bail. This will probably be ROR, released on your own recognizance. I've said in the past that I don't think that this is both big and not big. It's big because it is the first crack in the dam, and when a dam gets one crack, that's it. It's over. It's a question of time. He is going to get an indictment a month now on average for the next 8 months. That's my position. I'm standing by it. I have zero doubt in my mind. People who have been slowing down and just waiting to take the temperature on the water and who've been terrified, they're going to move forward now, and it's going to escalate because nobody wants to be the last one to indict him. So we're going to start seeing indictments coming rapidly. But I said this was not particularly serious. The reason is because the assumption was that the charges... now, keep in mind, and we've discussed this before as well, we know that he used campaign funds illegally for the payment to Stormy Daniels. We know this because Michael Cohen went to jail for it. So did, his name escapes me, but at least 2 people have gone to jail for that scheme. The only person who didn't go to jail for it is the man who engineered the entire fucking thing. That was because his Justice Department chose not to do it. It looks like there were other people who were interested in doing it at the state level. Now, keep in mind, we discussed this a while back, and we're starting to see the fruits of the Mueller report. One of the things we discussed with the Mueller report was that he was deliberately making all of that information available to the state's attorney, the state's attorney of New York, D.C., Virginia, a few others, that had an interest in this at the state level. The reason he did that was in case either the federal government tanked it because he was president of the United States, or in case he decided to pardon himself. Pardons are only the presidential pardoning power is only at the federal level. It is not at the state level, meaning he cannot pardon himself for any crimes that were done in a state's jurisdiction that state decides to prosecute for. My suspicion at this point is that some of the Mueller information is going to be used in this one. I think this actually exceeds well past the Stormy Daniels. What they have decided, when a crime is committed, it's usually committed in multiple jurisdictions. States tend to prefer to have the federal government prosecute, and there's a lot of reasons for this, not the least of which is the feds will then pay for the investigation, the trial, all that other stuff. We talked about this when Michigan was upset about the fake electors, and the Attorney General of Michigan said, we don't want to prosecute this in Michigan. It's a bad idea to prosecute this in Michigan. The law was broken here by these fake electors. They broke a number of Michigan laws, but they broke even more federal laws. Most of the laws overlap, and because they did this by crossing state lines, it's actually really should be prosecuted by the feds. But if they will not do it, I'm going to do it. The other reason the Attorney General didn't want to do it was because one of the fake electors was the Republican candidate for Attorney General, meaning she would be in the awkward position of prosecuting her opposition. Nonetheless, she said she would do it if the federal government did not give her an opportunity, wouldn't take it on their own. So what I suspect at this point, for people outside of this country, that can be a little confusing. You have one grand jurisdiction, it's the federal government, and any crime that occurs in any state is often also being occurred at the federal level. Not all of them, and there are some that are deliberately left out. And then they can be prosecuted by either by the federal government or the state government. In general, supremacy means that if it's illegal by the federal government, you can't actually make it legal by the state. States have done that famously with marijuana. That has caused a huge number of problems that have been mostly ignored by the federal government, but it sets up a precedent that actually happened in the last Civil War with the Fugitive Slave Act, which is that the federal government says we're going to pass a law and states say no. That is in and of itself a form of sedition. So, well, it gets fun quickly. At any rate, we also know that one of, and I have to thank Fiona for this. Fiona had sent me some info on this that I hadn't considered and collated a lot of this stuff. So I do appreciate her work in that. But one of the things that she had sent me was information on. She also sent that video I used earlier, which was very helpful. But let me just see. Oh, dear Lord, I've forgotten his name already. She had sent me information on, it was Mr. Pecker, believe it or not. I think that was. He was the former head of, I think it was the National Enquirer. Now, we know already that the National Enquirer was paying for stories that presumably they were going to publish. But instead of publishing them, they would just squash them. And they were doing this for stories that were critical of Donald Trump. And they did this with the Stormy Daniels one, where Stormy Daniels had, I think they'd actually, I shouldn't say because I don't remember for certain. I'm pretty sure they did it with Stormy Daniels, where they said, well, listen, we love your story. Obviously, you want it to go public. We want it to go public. We'd love to be the guys who make it public. Sign an exclusivity deal with us and everything will be great. Signs an exclusivity deal with her and then boom, they never publish it, but she can't do anything about it because she signed the rights to them. Now, while it was with the understanding that they'd publish it, it's very rare that you put into a contract like this, this is on the condition that you publish it, because it's very rare that a company buys something without the intent of actually using it. It's just not a condition people usually feel they have to put into a contract. But at any rate, now, I think it was with his testimony that I think we started to get an idea that this is going to be bigger than just Stormy Daniels. It's all tied around Stormy Daniels, but okay, it was David Pecker. So he testified, and we don't know what he said, but it was part of the, that was Karen McDougal. That's right. I don't think it happened with Daniels, but I think it did happen with McDougal. Now, you have to be a little careful. You can't set up a pattern of, a pattern of behavior and use it to convict someone. If somebody robs a bank, and you're trying to figure out sort of who's living in the neighborhood, and you find a guy who's robbed 30 banks who's living next door to the bank that was just robbed. The inclination is to say, oh, I think we found our guy. But actually, the fact that he's robbed 30 banks is not evidence in any way whatsoever that he robbed this bank. Bank robbers live next to other criminals sometimes, and we have criminals in our community who commit crimes, and not every bank robbery would be committed by this guy. It cannot be used as evidence against him that he robbed 30 banks as evidence that he robbed this one. Now, I'd look into him. I think it should be used as evidence to sit there and say, let's check this guy out. Could you use that as probable cause? I think it depends on the jurisdiction. But you absolutely could not use that to convict for reasons that should make sense when you're really trying to assume innocent until proven guilty. It's prejudicial. So how many times Trump or the magazine may have paid off people to keep quiet or bought their story in a catch and kill, grab the story and then kill it. We don't know. But the fact that he's testifying means that that's probably going to be one of the charges. So at this point, we're expecting to see charges out of the National Enquirer fiasco. That means that may be including McDougal. And because you can't present that as evidence, I don't believe you can even present it as evidence in a grand jury for the same grounds. It's prejudicial. So if it's included, it's being included for some other reason than to show a pattern of behavior. That means they're after him for something else. We've also learned, now the number of charges against him has fluctuated in the 30s. We believe now it's 34. And at last report, it looks like they may all be felonies. They may all be felonies. At the first report we had was all no felonies. Then at least one felony, maybe as many 4. At this point, we believe they are all felonies, and we believe some of them pertain to Stormy Daniels and what was the falsification of records. So as I had said earlier, and I think I lost this thread, but one of the things I pointed out earlier, the crime that he's committed, that he's being accused of, he committed in New York, violating New York laws. The federal government decided not to prosecute him. They got Cohen, they got, what's his name, the other guy, but they did not get or even go after Trump. And we've learned more and more about how then head of the Justice Department, Barr, Attorney General Barr, basically quashed all of this. So they had enough evidence, in my view, from what I can tell, easily to convict him. They decided not to. So at that point, the states have to do it if anybody's going to do it. The states would much rather the federal government do it. They don't want to have to deal with the mess. And it's a fucking president, and he crossed state lines. It's really the federal government's job, but it was his own Justice Department. They killed it. So now it's up to the states, which was, again, why Mueller copied everything to the states, so that if his Justice Department refused to go after it, or if he pardoned himself, the states could do it. And unless he's pardoned by the governor of those states, he can't do anything. So we believe he has entered now the courthouse. He's pumping his fist and hurling it into the air. Is that may not be a good idea. I could be wrong. Just saying. There's some dog whistles out there. I don't. Okay. He is currently under arrest. Donald J. Trump was arrested, we believe, about 20 minutes ago. He is awaiting arraignment once he's fingerprinted and or mugshot. And as we said before, we don't. There's rumors that he's actually not going to get the mugshot today. Once he's arraigned, the documents are unsealed and the information becomes public, but it's not made available right away. We expect it'll be made available later today, probably on their website. They have to upload it. They have to do the whole 9 yards. It'll be made available probably within hours of the actual indictment. The judge has barred cameras and barred the press from the courtroom. He has selected a small number of people who can take pictures representing the media, so we will eventually get pictures, but we will not have any kind of live stream or anything like that from the court. Also, not necessarily a bad idea. The O.J. Simpson trial took over a year for what should have been a very simple trial, and it took took that long for one very good reason, which was everybody knew they were on television. I got a couple questions in the live chat, so let me go through those questions and we'll go through. But again, at this point, I'm going to go back on what I said earlier. I had figured that this was just going to be about him falsifying business documents, and I think that's going to be a part of it. But first of all, if they're felonies, they're going after something else on that too. But it looks like it's going to be bigger, and it looks like I think this is going to be something big, and I think we're going to see some surprises in the 34 counts. It looks like it's going to go at least to his relationship with the catch and kill elements of the National Enquirer, and it wouldn't surprise me if Cohen and or the co-conspirator have a role in this that is as yet unidentified. I think this is going to be a big deal, and honestly, this should absolutely end former Attorney General Barr. The reality is, if the evidence for this is as strong as it appears to be, why is this being prosecuted in New York? They're going to have a harder time getting evidence. The case will be weaker, and it looks like they're going to. If it's what it looks to be now, and they've got the strength that they may well have, And if they managed to convict him, the question is, why wasn't this done at the federal level? And why was it done for 2 of his underlings, but not the guy running the fucking show? All right, we do have some questions, so thank you for that, and I appreciate tagging me. If you don't tag me, it's very hard for me to catch up with all the questions. So tagging me is a great happy dance, absolutely. No mugshot. It looks like there's going to be no mugshot, at least today. I'd ballpark it at probably 60-40 against a mugshot. I think there's a chance they're going to do a mugshot, but it looks like they are disinclined to do it. They may make that decision last minute. They may also take it and lie and say we didn't take it, but, you know, just, again, I'm against releasing them anyway, so, but I also am very strongly against him getting preferential treatment. So if they're not going to release his mugshot, hey, that's great, don't release it. Then don't release anybody's mugshots going forward, period, end of discussion. Free for publicity for Trump. Yeah, orange is the new orange. See, it works on 2 levels, because... yeah, if you have to explain the joke, I know. I'm sorry. I just like that one. Let's see. And we still don't have any... what I may try to do, actually, is... okay, let me see if I can do that. That may be worth it. And I don't think we've... I've reached out to a Xandring. This was all coming in a little late. So, and we were expecting... we were under the impression that the arraignment was going to be at 2:45. They pushed it up. That also makes a lot of sense. That probably was not a dumb thing to do. So what I'm going to do right now is let's see if we can get footage in for you guys so that you can see what's going on. Let me, yeah, I think we can do that pretty easily. So let's see here. I'll get that up in a second. I know I said I was going to check the live chat, so now, of course, I've just been completely... Oh, squirrel! Yeah. Okay, so I will check... I'll finish checking the live chat. I was in the middle of checking the live chat, and I do want to finish doing that. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best source here. I can get us a feed. I'm going to try to do this pretty quickly because he's going to be doing the perp walk in a minute, and everybody, I know everybody wants to see the perp walk. I want to see the perp walk. Waited a long time for this, which brings me to another point. There's been a lot of talk about, is this a great day for this country or is this a terrible day for this country? And even a number of liberals feel that this is a terrible day for this country, and I felt that way too, to some extent. I certainly understand and empathize with the sentiment, and the reason is because it's a terrible day that we have to go through this process. It's a terrible day that reminds us of just how terrible a president he was. So let's see. We're going to see if we can do, let's see. This should be, oh, dear Lord, ad blockers and the whole 9 yards. I'm going to try to get this in here. Let me, oh, that would be why. I want to try, NBC is carrying this live, so my hope is that we can just bring that in and comment on it. We're a commentary show. We will be commenting. But I'm having a hard time getting this in here. So let me just take a second with that. There you go. And then once again, as I said, I will get back to, no, they don't like that we have an ad blocker. I turn it off. How is the ad blocker listed twice? That's what I really want to know. Mystery of the day. How does an ad blocker show up in the, in the bar, in the actual bar twice? That's a good question. If there's a way to screw up a computer, I will find it. All right. Yeah, we may have it. Do we have it? We do not have it. We're close. This is part of that ongoing graphics thing that is just, it's just going to be mean to me. It does not like me. So here's what we're going to do. You know what? All right. I got an idea. One more idea. We'll try to get this in. It's probably not hugely important, but I'm aware you guys want to see it. I want to see it. We all do want to see it. So I'm going to take one more stab at trying to get this in. It's just our graphics have been giving us a hard time. And then, like as I said, I'm going to go through the live chat in just one more minute, whether we get this to work or not. I think we can get it to work. So yeah, there you go. Or not. No, we're not going to. It ain't going to. Never mind. So let me finish going through the live chat. I got a couple of DMs I got to check, and then we'll do a rundown of where we stand and what's going on right now. So for those of you just joining us, Trump has already been arrested. He is expected. Holy smoke. Thank you, Titan. So we have this. Dear Lord. Of course, it's a fake mugshot. I guess Trump is now fundraising a not guilty t-shirt. It worked well for OJ, so I guess he'll be fine. Let's bring this up here. This is Trump's not guilty t-shirt. This has gone out to anybody who subscribed at the Trump store. He's got his own like little mugshot there. That's because his real mugshot is not going to look nearly as presidential. Oh dear Lord, you can't make this shit up. Cohen was the go-between for the National Enquirer and Trump. And if Cohen testified, I haven't heard about it. Yeah, David Pecker, what a perfect. There are names. So I write, as most of you know, and I teach writing on occasion. I used to teach writing. I had a workshop for about 10 years that I ran. In time, used to do writing segments, and you can still find those in our archives if you're interested. But one of the things, there's an expression that something is true is the defense of a poor writer. I can't tell you how many times a writer has written something and say, okay, that's bad. No, that's not believable. That's not believable. And the writer goes, well, it's true, though. Well, it doesn't matter if it's true. What matters is it believable? If it's not believable, somebody will just bail on the story. So it needs to be believable. If I had to write a story about a guy who creates a pyramid scheme and rips everybody off, and I wanted to write it believably, it wasn't like a tongue-in-cheek or anything like that, and I made the main character's name Bernie Madoff. No, I couldn't sell it. Nobody would buy it. They'd say this can't be real. So it's truth is stranger than fiction. So yes, this guy's name is Pecker. I don't. Oh dear Lord. All right, hold on. Now I need to check because I did get, glad to get that Trump thing. I just want to make sure that we are back. So he is, as of this moment, still awaiting arraignment. I'm going to get back to live. Okay. Donald Trump, he is now coming through, and I apologize, I can't bring this feed up. I wanted to, but our video is not. But there's a feed here. He has just gone through the doors, it looks like, from processing, and he is now, I believe, entering. Let's see, is that the courthouse or the courtroom? That's got to be, he's entering the courthouse from the side, I would assume. This is underground, so they're going to move him from through an underground passage, and this is for security. This is actually standard procedure in general, anyway. So, yeah, and it's running on an infinite loop. They want everyone to see that. All right. All right. Stand by one. All right. So that's it. We're waiting to see what happens. I'll do a rundown in a minute. Let me get back to the live chat. And then we'll... Okay, so... what is the exact definition of a felony? The difference between a felony and a misdemeanor doesn't really... Okay, that's a good question. I don't know is the short answer. It depends on the state, exactly how they classify one versus another, and you get into problems. There was an interesting case where somebody had spanked a child, bare bottom, and was convicted of, I think it was felony sex abuse, actually. Not felony, sorry, misdemeanor. But since no other state in the union recognized that as a misdemeanor, for obvious reasons, you ended up having a dramatic escalation in the charges inadvertently just by seeing the difference between the systems. So in general, so in Massachusetts, if it's a crime that the punishment of which cannot be punished with time in a state penitentiary, then it's a misdemeanor. Otherwise, if it can be punished in a state penitentiary, whether it is or is not, if that's a listed punishment, then it's a felony. So felonies are a higher degree of crime, and I think each state really has its own definition of what constitutes a felony or a misdemeanor, and you can have problems where they try to mesh. So I am not familiar enough with the law to understand if there is anything more to it than that. They're really just supposed to be matters of degree. So if you're talking, a reasonably small crime, it's a misdemeanor. If you're talking a big crime, it's a felony. That's usually how people look at it. And state by state can... Sorry, hold on. Each state by state can sit there and, yep, that's the perp walk. Thank you. I'll put that up. Appreciate that. So 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴𝐵 got a shot of the perp walk, so I will bring that up and we can do it. So let's get that up there in a second. Thank you, 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴𝐵. So yeah, I'll get that up. That's it. It really, the difference between a felony and a misdemeanor only matters if really it comes down to sentencing and how sentences are done. In general, I don't know that it means much more practically than that. Now, somebody who's more familiar with the law may be able to correct me on that, but to the best of my understanding, it's really just a distinction. So, are you talking about somebody who just did something that, okay, they shouldn't have done, but they did, they broke the law, and you're gonna stand by, and you're gonna have to, deal with that in some way, or is it, okay, they did something, really serious. There's no such thing as misdemeanor murder, for example. Let's, what we're going to do? I'm going to take that down. No, that may not be a great idea. Take that down, and then we'll see if, no, we're good. All right. So what I'm going to do is, in about 1 minute, I'm going to talk about sort of where we stand here with what's going on and how far we've gotten with the Trump indictment. He is on his way, at least last we saw, to meet with the judge. He has been arrested. He has, presumably, if he's walking through here at this point, since he'd already been arrested, I believe that would mean that he's probably already been fingerprinted. The mugshots, we've been told, actually, they're talking about not doing the mugshots. I don't know why. Maybe they want to spare him the embarrassment. I actually concur with that line of reasoning, but I think that embarrassment should be spared for everybody. Actually, I disagree. Sorry. You need to have mugshots. You absolutely have to have mugshots. They should do mugshots, but I don't think they should be released publicly. It's internal for the police so they can identify you and find you. And everybody who gets arrested gets a mugshot. And we've all seen people come up with, okay, this is their mugshot for people who either did nothing wrong or were never convicted. And it's sort of like, well, it's prejudicial to just show people's mugshots, especially do it publicly. I'm really quite against that practice. All right, let's do this. So, yeah, I'll do another rundown in just 1 second. I want to just find. And then as a reminder, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, we are going to... Hold on, we're going to be having... Oh, that didn't... Okay. Well, let's put this back down. So I got the perp walk there. Thank you again, 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴𝐵. We're going to have Scott Kelly Ernest on tonight. He is a former white nationalist, very big on Stormfront, and he eventually decided that this was not the organization for him. He was, in his view, it was his job to foment hate across this country, and he was very good at it. We're going to be interviewing him tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. ask him about what it was like being inside, why he thinks people were so attracted to white nationalism, what got him out, and what he's been doing since then. He works with a charity. He actually co-founded a charity which is primarily focused on helping people get out of or to leave their former white nationalist lifestyles, and also focuses on LGBTQ, which is interesting. So we'll be talking to him about that. That'll be tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are also going to be holding a fundraiser for a UN charity. The charity is the UN Refugee Fund for Ukraine. It's going to send money primarily to Ukraine and to Poland, specifically to help with refugees of the war. This was originally supposed to be, I believe, on the 14th, but it's been moved now to the 22nd, I want to say. I'll check we had to move it back, so it's going to be in about 2 weeks, and I hope you will join us for that. So in the meantime, let me get caught up once again with the live chat, and we'll see what's going on. We don't have any new word. We do know that he was expected to be arraigned at about, originally it was 2:45, and then we got word that he was going to be arraigned at about 2:15 today. So we are really just waiting to see what happens with that. In Dutch courtrooms, cameras are not allowed to show the suspects. Suspects are also rarely named in the media, even after the conviction. I got to tell you, the older I get, the more I think that's a good idea for any number of reasons, not the least of which is here in the U.S. We're big fans of vigilante justice. We're fans of swarm attacks, and we're fans of piling on. Every time I see somebody with a broken arm, I make a mental note to, under no circumstances whatsoever, ask how they broke the arm. I do not do it. I never do it. I don't want to know how they broke the arm. We all want to ask. We all want to know for any number of interesting psychological reasons, from cheap voyeurism to actually a little tiny part in your deep in the mammalian brain that's there like, ooh, I need to know how so I can avoid it in the future. Obviously, however they broke their arm is, yeah, but evolutionary, that's been around for a long time. So everybody asks. But everybody also thinks that they're like the first person to ask. And if the person who broke their arm is just like, you know what, none of your business. You sit there and say, well, how rude. Well, if he's answered that question to 300 people so far, maybe you don't tend to think along those ways. It's been my experience when somebody commits a crime that offends the social conscience, whether it's an actual crime or just, whatever it was they did. And this goes from, when I was a teacher, this was a big deal because, we were lectured by the principal of the school who said, you can't go to strip clubs. Every new teacher gave the same spiel to, you can't go to strip clubs, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm like, I'm a grown-ass adult. And he's telling me that there's a whole bunch of things I can't do because society has all these expectations of a teacher. And if a teacher gets caught doing that, everybody attacks the school, they attack the principal, and the teacher gets fired. Why? Are we saying there's something wrong with it? Anyways, vigilante justice is a huge fucking thing in the U.S., and I don't think adding to that's a good idea. And I think mugshots inherently add to that, and probably cameras in the perp walk per Geostribber. Thank you. It's a bad idea. Yeah, not like we don't know what he looks like. Well, exactly. I think the only reason it was going to be interesting was because, and Titan had pointed this out earlier, which I hadn't even thought of, which was, you can't have makeup, prosthetics, hair pieces, anything like that when you do a mugshot. So everyone's always been asking about his hair. You know what? His hair looks really weird. But it really just looks like a bad comb-over from a guy who doesn't really give a shit and who has really bad thinning hair. Nothing about his hair looks particularly odd to me. So I am, I'm not eager to see it because I think that, we're going to get that he's bald or something. And by the way, if he was, so the fuck what? And we get over it with bald people again, too. We've got a whole bunch of information. Now, this has been dropped in our Discord. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, we follow all of these stories on the Discord. We have a number of different channels. We've got channels for gaming, philosophy. Sorry, Michael, I moved the philosophy down, but now that we have somebody interested in philosophy again. But I basically pick a topic, but we also have a breaking news channel, and we just sort of keep a record and catalog of stories as they happen, so you can follow up with us there. And when we're in the middle of a show, I'm often pulling directly from that channel. So we also are largely community-driven. I get most of the information from the community. We curate what the community brings to it, and we decide what we're going to air, how, and why. And so if you want to be a part of that, please join us. If you like the show, like, subscribe. It really helps us out. And share and tell people, hey, In Time is doing coverage of this. I like their coverage of things. And share it with friends. I think it's worthwhile. And I like to think by the time we have brought all of the minds to bear on dissecting news stories, we can get you information better and faster than many mainstream sources. I also stand by what I said at the top of the show, which is I think we're going to be looking at a number of felonies. One source, I think it's CNN, is reporting. No, it wasn't CNN. Forget who, but that'll be on the Discord. Is reporting actually they're all going to be felonies, and I think it's going to well expand past what we had thought, which was just falsifying records. And again, so basically what he did was he paid off Stormy Daniels. That's perfectly legal. People pay people for NDAs all the time. There's nothing illegal about that. He had his lawyer do it. Dodgy, all of it's dodgy, but probably legal. But he told the state of New York that he was giving his lawyer money for legal expenses, which is not true. And okay, he lied on business documents. That's usually a misdemeanor. So if we're looking at felonies, they've got him on something else, or those documents were really important documents. Now, here's the other thing. It wouldn't surprise me if some of those documents were loans. He applies for loans a lot. He has to account for money with those loans. If an accountant went through all of his money and they actually itemized every expense over, say, $10,000, then that payment is in there. And if he got a loan, especially from an international bank or an international money launderer like Deutsche Bank, yes, I said it, it's true, you know it's true, I know it's true, and they're not going to sue me for libel because it's fucking true. If he did that, he could be on the hook for a lot bigger things, and it's looking like that may be one of the things. So we're gonna take a look at that. Rolling Stone magazine is reporting that his lawyer has told him that there is enough evidence that there is no evidence for his defense, apparently, and that he can't get a fair trial in Manhattan. That's utter horse shit, but okay, fine. The Republican can't get a fair trial in... How long was he a Democrat? I thought he was great for that city. I thought he said everybody in that city loved him. You can't have it both ways, but at any rate... it looks like, and this is not an uncommon strategy as well. The job of your lawyer is to put forward the best representation he can and do his best to defend you. There are cases that are so bad, the lawyer just says, okay, we're going to go for a win on appeal, and they try actually to create conditions that put the prosecutor and or the judge in a position where they do a reversible error. There's a couple of problems with that strategy, not the least of which is even if you win on appeal, that just means you go through the entire process again. Hopefully, the prosecutor's not interested in going through a second trial. Unfortunately, this kind of thing happens often in sex crimes and stuff like that, where the victim testifying is its own injury to the fucking victim. And I very much think this should be unethical. I think it should be against the canon of ethics for lawyers. It is not presently, but drawing out a case so that a victim would have to be re-traumatized, and then re-traumatized again in order to get a conviction should not be legal. And there are cases that are dropped because of that, where they make the estimation that it's almost as bad as recommitting the fucking crime to put the victim up on the stand. And that's a gut-wrenching decision to have to make, and it's one of the downsides of our system, which otherwise works reasonably well, but there are certainly more than a number of faults. So it looks like his attorney is telling him to win on appeal. That's something you tell your client when you know you've lost and you want to make it look like that's part of the strategy so he doesn't fire you and so you still get paid. So his attorney thinks he's going to lose. And so that's telling. If you win on appeal, it just means it gets retried again. All that does is delay shit unless you can out-delay the state of New York, which the more you piss them off, the less likely. Yeah, Donald Trump has also been tweeting, I can't believe they're going to arrest me. I can. Pro tip, don't commit crimes if you don't want to get arrested. Yep, so we got the perp walk. That was 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴 Trump. Okay, yeah, okay, so that was him going into the courtroom. Let me just see if we still have that up. Yeah, that's down. I'm going to, unless we've got, no, we do not. What's that up? All right, so there's more going on. So we do now have pictures. Now, as I said before, they've decided to keep live cameras out of the courtroom, and the press is not allowed in the courtroom. But there are photographers who are there who have been taking photos. Yep, okay, so we've got 1 or 2 photos already in. Thank you, 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴. So I'm going to keep an eye on the live chat so we can get them. There's actually 2 or 3. Okay, that's a close-up. That's a decent one. So we have a couple of him. He is now facing the judge. Like I said before, we are expecting that he is going to be released on his own recognizance, but this is going to be our first chance to get some idea of the severity of the charges. Once this happens, the charges are officially public, but that doesn't mean that they've actually been released yet. It just means that they're unsealed. They're public record, but it takes a little time going from public record to actually making it publicly available. We expect all of the charges will be available within hours of the arraignment. Definitely today. So there he is at the table. So, like I said, and now we may get an idea because the judges, the state will make a recommendation. If the state recommends something pretty significant, then that means that they believe they've got some pretty serious charges on him. The defense is going to have a pretty easy time. The only real reason that you keep somebody in jail or have a bond is because you think they're a flight risk, and everybody's a flight risk to some degree. It really depends on the state's ability to enforce consequences on people for evading prosecution. If it's a parking ticket, you're probably not considered a huge flight risk, and if you don't show up, it's not like they send 60 cops out to get you. So you could still be living in your house, but you've technically, violated the terms of your arraignment by not showing up to court. People do that all the time for small stuff, and they can get away with it. So really, this is a negotiation between the DA and the defense as to how much of a flight risk he is and how serious it is and how much people really just want to make sure that he doesn't go anywhere. Well, they can take his passport. Reasonably unlikely, but possible. It really depends. The problem for him is if he leaves the country, this trial is going to continue without him. He's going to be wanted in the state of New York. He'll never be able to enter the state of New York again. And if he enters any other state, they'll extradite him to New York. So he has to go through with this. One way or another, he has to go through with this. He's not going to dodge it. So the argument is going to be, look, there's nothing he can do. He can't avoid it. So ROR. And I think that's probably, I'd want to see him pay something, but I get the argument for not doing it. So ROR is likely it. Yeah, it does look like, all right, so we have a shot. It's in the Discord from 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴. I'm not sure I'd call that minor rioting yet, but that is definitely a pushback. I'm going to take a look at the video and see, A, if we want to put it in, and B, what would call it if they're not. No, that's not rioting. That's not rioting at all. But it's a good footage, and I appreciate the footage. That's footage of, yeah, that's not rioting. There's no violence. Nobody's, okay, the police are manhandling reporters a bit just so that they can get through the reporters who are probably, those reporters are too close. You'll see a lot of that. The reporters get closer than they should. and the police push them back, and it would be assault, but for the fact that there's actual rules as to how close the reporters can get, and they violate those rules. And once they do, the police aren't gonna, knock them around, but the police are gonna, push them back. So, yep, that's good. Der Spiegel has a really nice shot. Trump has now pled not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. So, on one way or another, it looks like this is going to be all just the business records. It's all felonies, 34 of them. So that's really actually extraordinarily serious. And his lawyer has already seen the evidence from the grand jury, and his lawyer thinks he's going to lose. Now, his lawyer said what the lawyer's going to say, which is, oh, well, it's because you can't get a fair trial. Nobody in New York wants to convict him if he's not guilty. That's sorry. I know the narrative of liberals foaming at the mouth just trying to take him down. I don't think anybody in New York wants to convict him if he's not guilty. So, and he's going to have a fair trial. They're going to have a chance to voir dire the witnesses, and they can, or not the witnesses. Yeah, it should be witnesses, but what is it? What is it when it's with a jury? It's not voir dire, it's something else. But at any rate, they're going to have a chance to look at the jury. So, his judge thinks he's going down for this. Not his judge, sorry, his attorney. That's what that tells me. So that's it. Donald J. Trump has now pled not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. We are going to see, at this point, he's probably going to be released ROR, so that this will be over in about 15 minutes. He'll be done. He can go home. What's going to happen after that is it's going to take a few minutes before not a few minutes. It's going to take between an hour or two before the records become public. We will probably not air that. You'll be able to get that just about anywhere else, unless there's something really worth diving into that we think is not going to be given justice by mainstream media. If there's really something big in there that we think people have missed or not hung on to, we'll go live with it. We do that on occasion, and I'm very proud of the times we do that because we're right more often than wrong. But I'm not expecting that at this point. If it's 34 counts of falsifying business records, it looks like we know the direction it's headed in. So, all right, I think that's going to just about cover it. I'm going to make one more check into the, we're going to stay on until he's out. So, all right. Okay, so that's, yep, 34 counts, falsifying business records. Yeah, so actually roughly along the lines of what we had stated earlier. We had not expected up until today for all of it to be felonies. I think we mentioned yesterday that at that point we believed it might all be felonies. It's all felonies. That means that a jury in New York has determined that there is probable cause to believe that he is guilty. There's now going to be a trial. His attorney has said that they're going to go for a strategy of appeal and winning on appeal, which is not a fucking victory. That's what you tell people who don't know anything about the legal system. And when you cannot win, when you think that the evidence is so strong you can't win, you go for this strategy. So that means his own attorney at this point thinks that he's going to get hooked on this. So all of that is actually an extraordinarily bad day for Trump. And yep. All right. So, bad day for him. And it looks like, I mean, again, if his attorney thinks he can't make it, strategy is going to be on appeal. That means that this DA has to and this is why, by the way, this is why you don't want to be the first one to indict him. Because it's going to be really fucking hard, even on a slam dunk case. It's going to be really hard. He's going to hire the best lawyers he can. Nowadays, that's not as good as it used to be because he doesn't pay his lawyers. And it turns out that has a tendency to tick people off. But they're going to be looking for any mistake. They're going to be going through your personal life. They've already had to increase security. But once it's done with one, subsequent indictments become easier. That's it. It's the crack in the dam, folks. He's going to be getting an indictment a month for the next 8 months. I don't think there's any real doubt of that. We know that there's at least 3 others out that we know of. There's probably a good number more. They've got him out on electors fraud. They've got him out on the classified records, and there's one more I can't think of. It's a sneaky one, which one that's like, oh yeah, I forgot he did that shit. There's a lot of those, and there's, I think, going to be a lot of those coming out of the woodwork now. The IRS is still doing his audit. They've been at that for, was it 14 years? But this is incentive for them to wrap it up and wrap it up quickly, because they don't want to be the last one at the bite with a bite at the apple. At some point, he's going to run out of money, and the IRS isn't going to get paid if they don't hit him as soon as possible. So if it's at all possible, they're going to wrap it up. They're going to allocate extra resources to it, and you're going to see that IRS one coming within the next year. I have little to no doubt. So he's still there. Again, they set up aside a judge just to deal with this, and that's not uncommon when you're just bringing somebody in for an arraignment. You know, they try to get everybody in and out. Everybody's got bigger business to fry. The arraignment's just to start the trial, get the formalities. He's pleaded not guilty. They're going to check if they think that he really needs to be on any kind of bond, and then they're going to let him go. That's what we're looking at. So I'm going to check the live chat again, and like I said, I expect it's possible he's already out by now, although people are streaming this so quickly that we'll know within 60 seconds once he's out, and it shouldn't take long. If it's taking long for any reason, then we'll find that out pretty quick too. So let's see. He's got 1, 2. Does he have 4 lawyers there? Jesus. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if he's going to be tried as an adult or juvenile. I'm assuming as an adult, but I've watched Trump over the last few years, and that is a bit of a stretch to make that argument. But presumably he's being tried as an adult. You can't try him as a fruit. Well, you could, but I mean, I don't know if there's precedent for that. I'm just saying. We're going to argue he's being tried as an adult. Let's just, that's what we're going with this. All right, so let me, yep, all right, that's that. All right, we're good. Yep, orange is the new orange. That is the key word for today. So, for those of you just joining us, let's talk about where we are and how we got here. Donald J. Trump walked into a courthouse, or walked into a police station adjacent to the courthouse a little more than an hour ago. He was fingerprinted. We don't know about the mugshot. He was arrested. He was then taken via underground tunnel to the courthouse, where he entered a courtroom and has been seeing a judge. I've forgotten the name of the judge. I'm sure we're all going to be sick of it and have it memorized within a couple of days. But he is seeing the judge right now. He has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Oh, yeah, that was the other one where the jury's out. It's on Trump. Well, there's a civil case brought by the state of New York on Trump that'll wipe out his business. That is a good... Oh, Letitia James, that was a great lawsuit. That is designed to do one thing, and that is eliminate his ability to ever run a business in New York again. Trump, and I think it's going to work. It's going to be, I have no idea how they're going to defend against that one. That one was well done. And it opens up new suits against him in Florida. That's a good question what Florida's going to do. DeSantis doesn't want to make it look like a political prosecution, but on the flip side, it looks like he defrauded the state of Florida, at least in one way, by getting special dispensation for Mar-a-Lago by declaring it that he would not use it, I think, as a residence, and I think that was the deal. No, he'd use it as a single residence, not having multiple people live there, and he wouldn't use it as a business, which, of course, he has been doing. So that's tax fraud right there, and he's got a whole bunch of other tax issues. Between that and Deutsche Bank, getting money from Vladimir Putin. And when I say Vladimir Putin, I'm not joking. He got a significant amount of money that was laundered through Deutsche Bank from Russian banks. Okay. Russian banks is Vladimir Putin. They do not do business with someone at the level of Donald Trump without explicit permission and or instructions from Vladimir Putin himself. The banks are owned by Putin. They're state banks. He owns the state. So he's been getting money from Putin for a very long time. How far they go into the Deutsche Bank, I don't know. My suspicion is, well, okay, that was what, the Southern District? The Southern District is one of the most feared districts of any legal system. They prosecuted the biggest mobsters. They've prosecuted the Russian mafia, which is not a plan for longevity in this life. The Russian mafia is absolutely brutal, and the Southern District has done it. 2 members of the investigative team in the Southern District quit because they said they had more than enough evidence not to indict, to fucking convict him. That are just like, we're well beyond, is an indictment even tenable? He will be convicted. And the Southern District refused to prosecute, so 2 of its top prosecutors quit and published an open letter saying that they had more than enough evidence. A conviction would be easily attainable, and the Southern District refused to do it. We don't know why. We don't know if they'll change their minds. They actually haven't said they're not going to do it, unlike the federal government under Trump when it was investigating him. But we'll see. That's the one that's actually the biggest, I think. Now, the biggest is the classified records. But that Deutsche Bank is still really fucking big. Letitia James is going to wipe out his entire, this is the beginning of the end, folks. I don't think he's got nothing but problems ahead. He's got limited funds. A number of people have said that this has increased his popularity, and indeed, he's back up on top. He is currently the front runner in the Republican Party. We'll see how long that lasts. The truth is, a lot of Republicans know full well that they have to support him because they don't want MAGA to come out after them, and everyone MAGA's come after, for the most part, they've all lost their primaries. Okay. But you do not want this guy back in the White House, especially if you're a Republican, because then your party is going to be the one that's going to have the first guy in the White House to be thrown in fucking jail. So, and it's just going to cause a whole host of problems. And he's a lame duck anyway. It is hard. Here's the other problem. Your first, I almost said semester. Dear Lord, I've been watching too much Community. Your first term is great because everybody wants all these things from you, and they're like, well, as long as you can deliver and get the goods, you have a lot of power and muscle to flex. But every day you lose some. Even if you don't use it, you just lose it every single day. That's where administrations that decide to play it calm and quiet tend to not realize they're losing power every day. The second they come in for the day before a second term, they're actually really popular because everyone's like, wow, they could have 4 more years and here's what they could do. The second they start their second term, they're a lame duck. They can't do anything because what are they going to promise? 8 years from now, I'll do X, Y, and Z. You can't promise anything that's going to last more than 4 because you can't get elected again. So electing somebody who's already served 4 is Oh, thank you, Titan. I'll bring that up in a second. That's relevant. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we'll discuss that in a sec. So, they don't want him to win because he's a lame duck the second he goes in, and that isn't true of any other candidate that's running. Every other candidate has a possibility of 8 years. He does not. So he's already a lame duck. Going in, he'll be in a weak position and getting weaker from the moment. And then you add to boot that he's under multiple criminal indictments. And by the way, it's 8 counts here, so this would only count as 1 criminal indictment. But he's been indicted on 34 counts of, and by that point, he'll be under multiple ones, I guarantee it, under review. This country has fucking lost its mind. I can't fathom a world where the Republican Party that was always talking about how Democrats are weak on communism, weak on financial crimes, weak on crime in general, don't love this country, yada, 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 don't appreciate the system. And now it's these guys that are sitting there going, we're going to take the guy who's been indicted. What happened to Bill Clinton lied in a civil suit. Everybody lies in civil suits. It's so common to lie in civil suits. For the most part, you could do so and then admit you're lying, and you still won't get fucking busted on perjury. Because the assumption is everybody's always lying in a civil suit. He lied on a civil suit. Said, I didn't have sex with a woman, when he actually did have sex with her. That was the lie. It wasn't criminal conspiracy. It wasn't trying to... He didn't want his wife to find out that he had sex with someone. That was the lie. And they impeached him for it and said he was disqualified, should never be allowed to run for president or anything else again. How many things has Trump been accused of? Oh, well. It is really mind-boggling. We showed you guys earlier this picture. It is so inexcusable, it's hard to know where to begin. This is a picture that Trump had posted on his social media. That is Donald Trump. Well, let me rephrase that. It's a block of wood on the left holding a baseball bat, and that is the prosecutor on the right. There is no way to interpret that as anything as a threat. I will tell you, in some ways, I actually don't think it is a threat. To be fair and to be completely honest, in some ways, I don't think it is a threat, because he's a fucking child. I've estimated before, and I stand by this. His emotional age is about 12. He's 12 years old. That's not a joke. That's not besides a BA in psychology, besides the fact that I'm certified to teach grades 4 through 8 and 9 through 12 in 36 states in the union, and I have some idea of how to evaluate the emotional intellect of a child. All that. He's 12. He's 12. I am not trying to be offensive. I am not, that's not a guess. That is what, as a professional educator, that is, in my opinion, exactly where his his emotional state is. Probably something happened at the age of 12. He blocked there, hasn't grown up since then. He's not 7, he's not 10, he's not 14, he's 12. That's where he is. It's just a fact. So, to a 12-year-old, this is nothing more than venting anger. That's all it is. It's actually not intended as a threat. He's venting anger. He could never he doesn't have the balls to do shit like this. Probably, unless there's a side of him I don't know. It's not a threat. He's venting anger. Problem is, it could easily be viewed as a threat, and that's what's actually more important. It's immensely stupid, and other people will see it as a call to arms to go out and whack the guy. You can't post something like this on social media. So I don't give a shit what his intention was. If he's going to do stupid shit like a 12-year-old like this, he's going to have to pay the consequences, or he shouldn't be in political life. Reality is he shouldn't be in political life because he's not smart enough and emotionally stable enough to navigate it without ending up in jail. He's going to go in jail for the rest of his life. And when I say jail, from now on, just assume I mean house arrest. I'm aware that he's not actually going to spend a day in jail. All that notwithstanding, he's not. Anyways, it looks like this has now come up as an issue, which I should have predicted that I should have seen coming. What they're saying is that the attorney wants discovery on emails regarding this. Now, that's going to be an interesting question. That's a really interesting one, and that takes someone with more legal expertise than I have to answer. The question is, discovery is the process of getting into somebody else's files and records to see everything that they have, and they can now go through discovery. Discovery is going to be really fucking interesting on this one. I think we're going to learn a lot we haven't seen before, and that's another thing I hadn't taken into account when we were talking about this earlier, which is discovery alone, depending on what skeletons he has in what closet, discovery alone could do a phenomenal amount of damage to him. We'll see what he's got in discovery. He's said repeatedly, Michael Cohen originally said, oh, well, those payments I did because I love Trump so much. I did it out of the kindness of my heart. We knew he was lying. We were able to demonstrate later that he was lying. But if he's got emails pertaining to this that show that, when he's been telling everybody that he's all this other stuff. Now, it's so far past, I don't think MAGA's going to care. But it could open up another can of worms. All that aside, this does not pertain to the case directly. He's not charged for this. The charges don't stem from this at all in any way whatsoever. So would it be open to discovery? That's going to be dependent, I suspect, on the laws of the state of New York. If it's seen as a threat to the attorney, I mean, technically it's kind of getting it in through the back door, because discovery is supposed to be based on what he's being charged with. Having said that, if he's threatening, and that is threatening, that may not have been intended specifically as a threat. It was a little boy holding a temper tantrum. But whether it was intended as a threat or not, it is threatening. It is absolutely threatening, and you never, I don't give a shit who you are, and care what your age, you don't post something like that. I wasn't joking. He really could be tried as a kid. It would be much closer to an understanding of his psychological makeup. But having said that, he's an adult. He's either going to learn to act like one, or he's going to go to jail. Trump's skeletons have skeletons. Yep. Titan said, and this is exactly, yes, I think Titan captured exactly what it is I've been trying to say. Titan said, I don't think he thought of it as a threat, but he knows perfectly how, yeah. And he's going to sit there and say, I didn't mean it as a, he's a fucking, really, I swear to God, he's a lot easier to understand when you realize he is blocked at 12. His emotional age is 12 years old. That's it. Everything he does makes a shit ton more sense if you have any experience with 12-year-old boys. That's it. It ain't complicated. Is he a narcissist? Probably, but then again, so you're not allowed to diagnose anyone under the age of 18 with narcissism, psychosis, anything like that. It doesn't matter how strong the evidence. You're not allowed to do it. Not allowed to do it. You can't diagnose them with sociopathology. No, sociopathology is the verb. You cannot diagnose them as sociopaths or psychopaths before the age of 18. You can't. Can't be done. And plenty of people say, well, why? There's so much evidence. Because a shit ton of behavior of 12-year-olds or 16-year-olds, if had been done by a 24-year-old, would be considered psychopathological. It would be considered fucking criminal. It would be like, holy shit, throw them in jail for the rest of their lives. And their brains fully develop, and they get out of it. Part of the development process is going through a stage where you're a real fucking menace to society. Doesn't happen to everybody, happens to different people, different degrees. You cannot diagnose someone below the age of 18 because their brain is not developed enough yet that any diagnosis would be meaningful. So he is at the age of 12. Now, you can diagnose him because physically he's old enough and his brain ain't going to mature anymore and ain't going to change in any meaningful way. So you can diagnose him. He is at the age of 12. Is he a narcissist? Well, he is a narcissist in the same sense that most 12-year-old boys are fucking narcissists. Is he a narcissist beyond that? I don't know. I don't give a shit. 12-year-old narcissism is good enough. The average, let's say, well, it's above average. He's at the top 12% of narcissistic 12-year-old boys, but that's where he is. This could well be an attempt to get the judge to limit his ability to social media. Yeah, I think that's going to be part of it. But they do want any emails pertaining to this. It may also be an attempt to separate him from his lawyers, because if his lawyers saw this and did not immediately say you can't do it, you have to realize too, his lawyers are officers of the court. Any officer of the court, their first duty actually is to the court, which ostensibly means their first duty is to see justice done in one way or another. Now, defense attorneys would sit there and say, well, aren't they allowed to do anything? No, their job is absolutely to get their not to get their client off per se, but it's morphed into their job is to get their client off for the most part at all costs, but at all costs within the constructs of they are an officer of the court, which means they cannot put somebody up on the stand that they know is going to lie, for example. So yeah, if you're a defense attorney, your job is to get your client off, but you have to follow certain rules on the acknowledgement that you're an officer of the court. You cannot put on the stand somebody you know is going to lie. If you do that, you lose your license. Period. That's it. It's over. Doesn't matter which side they're on, too. If you call somebody on the stand that you know is going to lie, you can't put them up. Now, there's a couple of caveats to that. Obviously, if it's somebody who's, it's called suborning perjury. It gets complicated, but that's the basic rule. So, his lawyers are an officer of the court. If his lawyers knew he was going to do this and did not tell him that he cannot do it, if they didn't threaten to resign for him doing it, they may get booted. So there's any number of reasons to bring this up. Geos Trevor, sorry. This is why I shouldn't be watching the live chat in mid-sentence. I am going to have to read this one aloud. I'm the best narcissist ever. Nobody's been more narcissistic than me. I narcissized more than anyone here before. I've been the best narcissist. And to tell you the truth, I'll be honest, sometimes I don't like making fun of him. Because he's fucking handicapped isn't the word I'm looking for. But he's not well. And not in a huge way, actually. It's not like a real, but he is blocked at that age. And because his parents taught him how to operate a business, and because he's a smooth talker, he's managed to get himself into a lot of trouble. It's entirely his fault. It's not, I don't want to sit there and say it's not his fault. He's the one who did all this shit. But on the flip side, it's like he's not all there. And there's nobody looking at him who doesn't recognize that. But somebody near him should have said, stay out of it or you're going to get in trouble. And he should have learned to stay out of it. And he's playing with fire. This is where he's going to end up. So, and I'm still going to make fun of him. And ableism. Yeah, exactly. There's got to be a better way to put that. But he's yep. All right. So we haven't heard anything else. I'm going to double check and see. Unless there's something big, I want to stay on it because there's the chance that something really big is going to happen. On the flip side, I mean, the arraignment's taking longer than we had anticipated. One reason why is because they brought up that photo. That's going to slow things down. There's a couple of discussions to be had there. We'll see. I mean, if I were the judge, I can't, I was going to say what I would do if I was the judge, but the problem is this now gets into New York law. I can opine in general legal things, but I don't know what the state of New York has to say about trying to get something like that into discovery. There's good reasons for, there's good reasons against. Reason against, it has nothing to do with the charges. If you're pissed about that, then file charges on that one. Don't just bring this in through the back door. Okay, that's an entirely fair point. Reasons to bring it in. If his lawyers were involved with this, if the lawyers practicing right now were involved with this, and if he's actually actively engaged in a campaign against the current attorney prosecuting him, they have to know, and they have to know faster than the rate at which they could bring up another grand jury and indict him on this, because the trial is happening now. That's a good reason for allowing it. So that's going to be argued. We'll see. The only reason I would be for it probably is just my bias against Trump. So it's interesting to see what a judge is going to say. I'm going to go through the live chat one more time, and we'll just sort of check out where we are. For those of you joining us, Donald J. Trump was arrested a little over an hour and a half ago, or about an hour and a half ago. He was arrested. He was fingerprinted. We don't know if he was mugshotted. He should have been, but we were told yesterday that there was a distinct possibility he would not be. He was brought through a secret tunnel from the police station to the courthouse. He is now facing a judge. He has pled not guilty to 34 felony counts, which is fucking big. And they are now trying to figure out bail, but they've just gone through discovery. They're trying to figure out what they're going to sort through on discovery. Trump posted this picture to social media, which is obviously a menacing and or threatening photo. It's extraordinarily serious. The reason I think so many people don't take it seriously is because it's like, well, what did you expect? It's Trump. We all know he's going to do shit like this. Imagine if Biden had done something. Imagine if Clinton had done something like this with Ken Starr. Imagine Biden on the left, Ken Starr on the right. Imagine what the consequences would have been. At any rate, that's come up, and it looks like they're seeking. Let me just see everything I'm quoting now is going to have to be from indirect sources because there's no live streaming in the room. The sources that we're choosing are good sources, so we know who knows what they're talking about when they talk about this. So, and you can see all our sources in our Discord in the breaking news, and some of it's been sent to me directly, bypassing that, which the people who are empowered to do that know who they are. But we can get you all the sources. This is not our first rodeo, so if you want to check it out, you can. But because there are no cameras allowed, the photos that we've gotten are either from court photographers or some other source. It may be there was a pool of who was allowed in, but nobody is, and they don't let cameras in. They don't let cell phones in there usually too. When I was head of a mock trial for the Westboro mock trial team, I did manage to get my cell phone in once or twice. That was probably not a wise idea because the metal detectors and stuff like that. But there's, if you knew what you were doing, there was a way. We also had an attorney come in with us. So I was just like, to the attorney, I was like, no, what happens if you just hold my cell phone for a minute while we're going through the metal detectors? I probably shouldn't have said that. At any rate, let me, okay, so I want to find the claim on they're definitely, the claim is that they're trying to include it on discovery. Oh, dear Lord. Please tell me he did not just do that. All right, I'm going to need 30 seconds. I need to check this. Holy shit. God. Thank you for the warning, too, Titan. I think that was a worthwhile. That yeah, I need to sort that. We're going to talk about something in a minute. All right. It looks like Donald Trump how did he get a cell phone in? Well, he could have done it through his lawyers, but they don't usually let them have cell phones. The lawyers are officers of the court. They're allowed to have cell phones. They usually do not allow anybody else to have a cell phone because they can take a picture of a witness. They can take a picture inside clothes. You are not allowed cell phones in a courtroom unless you're an officer of the court. It looks like during this, Trump has tweeted a photo of the daughter of the judge on Truth Social. Yeah. Now, he is arguing that this is to show that the judge has a conflict because his daughter worked on the Biden-Harris campaign. That's what he's claiming, and he has now posted a picture of the judge's daughter. I'm going to double check that source. That's MSNBC. That's a pretty good source. Oh, apologies. Okay, correction. Thank you, Titan. Okay, no. Donald Trump Jr. has posted it. Not Donald. Oh, fuck. The turd does not fall far from the cart. Sorry, that was not Trump. Okay, very important correction. I misspoke there, and that needs to be corrected. That was Donald Trump Jr. posted it, not Trump himself. So, all right, and we do need to try to keep the breaking news Discord free of as much as possible, but that's an important correction. So, all right, it was Donald Trump Jr. has now posted a picture. Okay, that's actually still really fucking dumb, but that's yeah, really fucking dumb, but that is a huge difference between him doing it and Trump doing it. Holy shit, though. Okay. All right. I'm going to get into that in just 1 second. Oh, dear Lord. Let's figure out. So, you're the judge. You are literally in the process of trying to sort out what you're going to do with this photo. And you just find out that this man's son on the left has posted a picture of your daughter on Truth Social. Wow. We're also learning, let's see, the assistant district attorney tells the judge that there's a very real concern about Trump's social media posts inciting violence and as a threat and increasing violent rhetoric. So, Yeah, so let's keep the breaking news channel just down to for the most part, should only be links. If there's something that's like really urgent, you can let me know, but we need to just try to keep it down to links because it gets tough to sort through that channel when loads of comments are being put up in there. So, all right, so I do apologize. That was entirely my fault. It was crystal clear that it said Donald Trump Jr., and I did not catch the Jr. I did not catch the Jr. Okay, one post is 3 hours old. The other one that I saw is an hour and a half old. So not an hour and a half old. Let's just see. Yeah. So that was entirely my bad. It's still bad. It's not nearly as bad. Just figure out. Okay, so the actual post, the Truth Social post, well, there's a tweet referencing it. So just to get the timeline on this. Now, the tweet that I'm seeing from Donald Trump Jr. is... Yep, okay, so it is older. So so the judge may have known that going forward. That's interesting. All right. Holy smoke. Well, yeah, Junior doxing the judge, very bad idea. Yes, and they'll find a way to fuck him for it. But the problem is, if the judge is any good, and I hope he is, he's not going to hold Senior directly responsible for this one. But what I would do is say I'd be absolutely willing to consider going forward any tweets from your family about this matter as coming from you. How much he can do with that, I don't know. He's probably got a little leeway from that. But how much is a good question. The problem is, as we said before, and his lawyers have already said, they are not going to try to win this. They are not going to try to win this. They're going to go for something that could be overturned on appeal. And that's going to be their strategy. That means they think he's hooked anyway. They think he's done. So if you're the judge, the last thing you want to do is give them anything. So saying you're going to hold Donald Sr. responsible for Donnie Jr., you and I both know, Sr. does exactly what, Jr. does exactly what Sr. tells him or doesn't tell him to do. If Sr. says, don't ever do that again, it ain't going to happen again. But what we know and what you can prove in a court of law are two different things. So I don't envy the judge on that one. I look forward to the transcripts. How much of a conflict of interest is this? Not necessarily all that much. First of all, keep in mind, the argument has been that when Thomas's wife's, Clarence Thomas's wife has been directly involved in cases before the Supreme Court, Thomas doesn't have to recuse himself. There's no conflict of interest, which is utter fucking horseshit. But anyone who's made that argument really is not in much of a position to say that the grown daughter of a man who may have wildly differing political views than him, I don't, how often does one generation agree with the political views of the next? And you're not going to find somebody in New York who's in the political system who doesn't have a family member who's done something for one side for the other. So, but that may be part of the point of appeal. They may try that one on appeal. Yeah, it'll get mentioned on appeal. Yep. And I mean, I get the argument. By the way, you could make the argument without posting the fucking picture. And by the way, I'm curious to know what she does for a living. If she's a political operative, that's one thing. Even then, but if she's just a civilian who helped out with a campaign because she was fond of it for some reason or another, and the rest of her time she's a vet or she's a this or that, you're basically dragging somebody into, and this is what happened with the women, the mother and daughter who were counting ballots, I want to say in Michigan, whichever state it was, and one of them handed another a thing of chapstick, and it went on all over it's a USB stick because they're spies, and they're going to put the USB stick in, and it's going to into the machine that doesn't have a USB stick. But if you use a hammer at the right, if you hold it at the right angle, even if it's not a computerized voting machine, if you just hammer it right, even though there's no USB port, the USB port goes right into the CPU, and boom, you've hacked the whole thing. And when they do that, and because they're being paid by whoever they're being paid by, the DNC and all, bend over backwards and do all the Gordian knot stuff, their lives were destroyed. Their lives were fucking destroyed over utter horseshit with zero evidence. I'd really kind of like to see that shit stop. All right. I'm going to check out, let's see. We'll have to clear out some of the... Somebody pointed this out. As Trump began his perp walk, nobody bothered to hold the door open for him. He had to push it himself. That's a good point. We talked about this. When he did that baseball bat thing, that probably pissed off a lot of people. And district attorneys and cops are famously at each other's throats. Cops really think that the DAs drop good cases that they worked hard on, and the DA's like, nah, we can't prosecute it, sorry. Prosecutors are pissed because if a cop does one thing wrong, all of a sudden the prosecutor can't get, his job done because all of the evidence is going to get thrown out. Prosecutors tend to think the cops are barely competent at their job and an evil, one of the sort of evil necessities of the job. And lawyers sort of roughly see the same thing. It's like, we hand them a case, that's gold and dynamite, and they go cut a deal and let a horrible, horrible human being walk. They don't like and they throw each other under the bus all the time. The DA has to throw cops under the bus when a case starts to head south. Say, well, it's not our fault, it's the cop's fault, and you shouldn't let this guy go off because the cops screwed it up. There's a lot of, they're at each other's throats, but it's a bit like the Navy and the Marines in that sense. They may give each other a hell of a fucking hard time, but if you fuck with either of them, there's nobody who's going to come to the defense faster than the other. Fucking with a judge is a great way to get the entire New York Police Department on your ass, as well as every prosecutor in New York. It doesn't matter whether they all like the judge or not. They're all in the same job, and they all have to face people doing this kind of shit. So one thing they all agree on. So that's one thing. We talked about that earlier. And I said they might just put him in cuffs just for the sake of doing it because, hey, fuck you. But I like the fact that they just slammed the door in his face. All right. Let's just see here. Yep, okay, so that post was 3 hours. So I made 2 mistakes on that post that's worth clarifying. I had said Donald Trump Sr. It was actually Jr., and it seemed like it was happening in real time. The post that I had seen was on Twitter, posted at 3:01? Yeah, 3:01. So it looked like it had happened just moments ago, but I failed to check where that post was getting its source from, and that posted at around noon. So that was, I made 2 errors there, and I apologize for both of them. I don't know if Trump got a cavity search. If I were the chief of police, I would not encourage a cavity search. Enough veterans suffer PTSD. The police see enough horrors every day. I don't know why you would subject one of your own men to that. The cost in trauma counseling alone, probably going on for decades, really. It's almost a war crime, frankly. It's just like cruel and unusual punishment. I wouldn't do that to anybody. Anyways. So, all right. What is the veracity of, I don't know what that question means. What is the veracity of the POC deal? So, I think we're going to do a wrap up at this point. Wait, hold on. He may be out. All right. At this point, I believe he has now left the courthouse. Ostensibly, he has been released ROR. They have a lot to discuss in regards to those threats. I don't know if the picture, it sounds like the picture of the judge's daughter did not come up. So I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot to go on with this. Like I said, this is the crack in the dam. We're going to be seeing an indictment a month after this, I think, on average. So we're obviously not going to carry all of them. We may carry the next one depending on the severity. Certainly, we're going to be very interested in anything regarding nuclear secrets and the classified documents. But we do believe now we've got a live shot of a motorcade traveling, and in general they don't do live shots of motorcades. So even though I've gotten no word that he's out, yeah, it's a motorcade traveling through what looks to me to be the Bronx. So no, sorry, that's Brooklyn. So yeah, Brooklyn or the Bronx? I don't know. I used to be able to tell the difference between the two, and now I can't. Okay, now I really want to know. It's Brooklyn. Brooklyn. Jesus. Okay. Yep, that's Brooklyn. All right. So, yep. All right. That's it. If you're just joining us, it's been an interesting show. We've had to make a few corrections, for which I do apologize, but the long and the short of it is that we have learned that he is now indicted on 32 the felony counts of falsifying business records. We're going to find out more about exactly what that means when the indictment is released. It is technically unsealed, but just because they've unsealed it, it hasn't been scanned into a computer. It hasn't been put up on their website. We'll be seeing it probably in about an hour. Although actually, I'm seeing now it was going to be within an hour of the arraignment, and it looks like it may actually be available now. I'm not going to get into it. If we think a show needs to be done on it, we'll get into it. Come on to our Discord. You'll see what we think about what we're seeing, and we're going to stay on top of it. Tonight, we are going to... Oh, is that... Do we have that? Yeah, we're not going to... There's always something. Tonight, we're going to have on a former white supremacist, big blogger on Stormfront, who also preached hate and eventually got out, left, and has been trying to make a new life for himself, in part by helping other people get out from the white nationalist movement. We're going to be talking with him tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. We're expecting that to be about 90 minutes long. We're looking forward to that. Hope you will join us for that. We've got a few other things going on, including we'll be having Operator Starsky on Friday to talk about what's going on in Ukraine. Commander McMillan should be joining us on Thursday for our regular downtime, and then we will be doing in 2 weeks from this Saturday a fundraiser for the UN Refugee Relief Fund, and we're looking forward to that and hope you will join us for that. So come on into our Discord, like, subscribe, share. It really does help us out. I will tell you this, In Time can't be clipped, so people can't take clips on In Time. Can't be done. It's not our fault. YouTube actually has a policy against clipping news channels, so nobody can clip the statement of me saying the job of an attorney is to get you off. Sorry, Titan. Have a good evening, folks. We will see you tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see you in the Discord and try to make sense as all of this comes out. Thank you all for joining us. See you tonight.